Alright guys, what's going on? This video is not exactly a good mood video. Um, I've tried to avoid being political on this channel. It's politics never mesh well when you are trying to, put out when you're trying to build a channel like this. Politics are obviously not something that you really want to bring up very often. And, it's very divisive, very divisive. It's very, they say there's two things you never want to talk about when you're at work with your coworkers or your boss. And that's sports and politics. That's because those two things, especially politics, will just divide like none other. Yesterday, there was a tragedy in Florida. 17 were shot and killed at a school by none other than just a psychopath. And immediately people start jumping on the bandwagon, on the politicization bandwagon. They want to politicize it to support their side. And they use it as a means to basically push an agenda a lot of times, and that's on both sides. It's unfortunate. I try to stay away from that stuff when it comes to the political aspect of it, because it's just too easy to come off as disingenuous and insincere when you immediately start to talk about, well, we need to ban this or we need to do that. It's like, look, can't we just let the families mourn for a little while before we start politicizing it to push an agenda? I'm sure I've made it clear in past videos, although, probably over the last 20 or so videos, I've really tried to not lean any which way. But prior to those videos, and I'm sure if anybody's seen them, it's been pretty obvious that I'm right-leaning. So it's pretty easy to tell my view on guns. And I do believe, it's not the gun issue. It's not an issue with the guns per se. It's something that people on the left don't want to acknowledge. At least they'll say that they acknowledge it, but then they immediately want to go towards the gun. But it's the person. It is the person that we need to look at, not the object. And then they also, more specifically want to point out the AR-15. Half of the mass shootings that these people like to blame the AR-15 for, the AR-15 wasn't even involved, or it wasn't even used. It may have been there, but it wasn't used. The vast majority of mass shootings are done with pistols, believe it or not. They're not, but the ones that get politicized, or not politicized, that get televised and run through the media are, the ones with the AR-15s involved. And it doesn't even have to be an AR-15. It can just simply be a gun that looks like an AR-15, and everybody just calls it an AR-15. I mean, they're completely bastardizing, if that's even a word, the gun, which, it's an object, whatever. But people don't understand that the AR-15, I don't even own an AR-15, but people don't understand that the AR-15 is not any more powerful than a .22 rifle. I mean, they're really not. It's the same size cartridge. It's a .223 cartridge. And, you know, they look scary, but they're, you know, again, it's all based on looks. And, you know, it's all cosmetic, you know, and they are still pushing the agenda that the Orlando shooting was an AR-15, when in fact it was, I want to say it was a SIG. It was a completely different operating system. It wasn't even remotely an AR-15. It was a completely different operating system as opposed to what the AR-15 is. But the AR-15, it has become a like a dog whistle for the left. And they think that, you know, well, I'm not trying to say that I'm in favor of anything, you know, or not in favor of anything. The point of this video, really, is that, well, I just saw somebody on one of my friends' Facebook threads, who she's vehement, she's extremely against, you know, well, she's extremely for gun control. You know, she's very, very left-leaning. Even though, you know, she has a couple rifles in her house, but they're, you know, old rifles. And, you know, the left likes to say, oh, well, I've got a gun in my house, so you should listen to me. I've got a gun in my house, therefore, I'm not an anti-gun person. Well, you're an anti-freedom person when it comes to whoever else wants to choose what guns they want to buy. And they don't know jack shit about guns, okay? Just because they have a gun in the house doesn't mean that they know jack shit about guns. There's millions of people that have a car, but they still have to take their car to a mechanic because they don't know jack shit about the car. But they like to claim that just because they have guns, that, you know... And then these are the same people that like to say that if you don't have a vagina, you cannot give an opinion on abortion. These are the same people. Just, anyways, that's a sidetrack. So anyway, you know, I saw a Facebook video yesterday, and, you know, they were talking about how there were people, kids were saying that they were not surprised that this guy did what he did, that this kid went to school and committed this heinous crime. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say what I was talking about. I forgot to bring up when I was talking about why I brought up this person's Facebook post in the first place. Somebody commented on there, on, you know, this basically anti-gun friend of mine, commented on their thread saying that anybody who even supports the ability to buy an AR-15, you don't have to own an AR-15, but anybody that supports the ability for you to go out and buy an AR-15, you're complicit to all these murders. That's the most asinine thing I've ever heard. That's when I just wish I could reach through the internet and slap somebody in the face. You are not, just because you support the right for somebody to choose the gun that they want to own, does not mean you're complicit to a murder that gun was involved in. That means if you support somebody going out and drinking a beer, then you are complicit for everybody that has gotten into a drunken driving accident and killed somebody. You're complicit for that. You know, if you're pro-choice, you are complicit for, you know, you're a baby killer. I'm sorry, you're a baby killer. If you're pro-choice, even if you've never had an abortion, you're pro-choice. Whatever, you know. This video is going to be so demonetized. It's not even funny. But, you know, it's just this dumbest thing I've ever heard. Just because you know, an AR-15 is not even it's less lethal. All guns are lethal, but if you want to put it in a level of whatever, an AR-15 is less lethal than a common hunting rifle, and everybody is okay with a hunting rifle. But no, an AR-15, God forbid, the only thing about an AR-15 is the way it looks. There's nothing that makes it more lethal. Nothing. Okay? Nothing makes that thing more lethal. Alright? It's like buying a Ford Escort and painting it black and saying, oh my God, that's a fast car. No, it's not. Somebody took the fucking car and painted it black and threw some goddamn wheels on it and a loud exhaust. It's not fast. Okay, anyway. This Facebook video that I watched, he was talking about how kids were saying they were not surprised that this guy or this kid did what he did. This is where political correctness bites us in the ass. And I am going to vehemently teach my kids to put aside feelings of other kids if they suspect anything that can possibly interfere with their continuing to live. My blood's boiling just thinking about it. But these kids that were saying that they did not, or they were not surprised, but this climate, our political climate dictates, even if there's no laws against this, but our political climate dictates that, in a societal manner, if you single somebody out because you think that they're doing something that's, for any reason you think that, what they're doing is questionable, if that person is a fucking minority, just happens to be a minority, then you're going to be labeled a whole bunch of names. And if you're a kid, God forbid, you're going to be labeled a bigot, a racist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, a whatever phobe. Because that's all the goddamn ammo the left has, is to slander anybody that wants to point out something that could possibly become a mass shooting if it's not dealt with in a timely manner. You saw it with the clock, the homemade clock in Texas. The school, the teacher was legitimately worried. It looked like a goddamn bomb. I don't care who you are. You're lying to yourself if that didn't look like a bomb. And to be safe, they did what they had to do. And I commend them for that. Absolutely. Because if that had been an actual bomb, Jesus Christ, can you imagine what would have happened if that were an actual bomb and nobody did anything? Well, that's what happened at the school in Florida. Kids knew that this guy, nobody was surprised, but nobody said anything. Nobody talked to a teacher. Nobody did anything. And because of that, 17 lives were lost. 17 young lives. And as a parent myself, it breaks my heart that our society has come to this. My kids are damn well going to know that there is a fine line between being inclusive and polite and throwing political correctness out the window. Because I will do whatever I can to make sure my kids are safe. And you know what? Your feelings or anybody else's feelings are meaningless to me if my kids' lives are possibly in jeopardy. And you could be saying to me right now, oh man, Corey, you're overreacting, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to happen. Well, guess fucking what? I can guarantee you that if a kid or a parent had raised a concern about this boy, everybody would have looked at them like they were Hitler. Everybody would have looked at that parent like, oh my God, you're a horrible parent. You're raising your kids all wrong. You're raising your kids to be a bigot. You know, this will never happen. That kid's not going to shoot up the school. But guess what? It happened. And 17 fucking lives were lost. I'm just stewing in this right now. Because everything that I hear when it comes to what the left is saying about this makes me want to puke. And they're saying that because we are for certain guns, that we are complicit to these murders. Fuck you! Fuck your leftist bullshit agenda. If you want to fucking say that, come find me. I'm in fucking Minster, Ohio right now. I'm going to be in Ellery, South Carolina tomorrow. Come say that to my fucking face. I gotta get off here. I'm boiling right now. But you bet your ass this is going on YouTube unedited. Because sometimes you just have to be blunt, and you have to throw political correctness out the window and forget about hurting somebody's feelings. And right now is one of those times. I will not let somebody tell me that because I'm for somebody's rights to have a gun for self-preservation, that I am complicit in the murder of 17 kids. You can just go to hell if you think that. You can just go to hell. Plain and simple, guys. If you think that, and you know what? I want to make it clear too, if you've made it this far in this video, I don't think that everybody on the left is like that. I explicitly divide a leftist from a liberal, but yet a liberal is on the left. But a liberal doesn't think like this, okay? And I'm not a Trump supporter, okay? I am right of center, but there's very little about Trump that I support. And you're going to look at me like I must be some crazy Trump supporter. But guess what? I'm just, I'm for everybody having their right to self-preservation. And I'm for anybody having their right to choose whatever they want to choose that doesn't hinder somebody else's choices or freedoms. So again, I don't want to throw everybody that's on the left, or everybody that's on the left just because they're on the left, in with that group. Because not everybody on the left is in with that group. There are good liberals out there. There are liberals out there that you can have a conversation with and not be called a racist or a homophobe or a transphobe or whatever phobe simply because you have a differing opinion. But anyways, I'm going to get off here. Again, guys, hug your kids. I swear to God. Show your kids every day how much you love them, because you just never know when something could happen. And you can call me less of a man because you see a tear in my eye right now, but I couldn't give a rat's ass less. When I think about my kids, I get emotional about things like this. And it's something I never thought I would ever understand before I had kids, but now that I have kids, I completely understand. But anyways, guys, you be safe out there. Again, go home and hug your kids and your wives and your husbands. We'll see you guys later.